comebacks to believe that it's not gonna happen again. Flipping numbers on the scoreboard, listen to the crowd roar. You already know who wins. Anytime it looks too hard, I'll learn to look my eyes to the stars. Cause the maker of it all, he made my heart, my heart. Oh, I belong to a wonder-working God. Making a way like gonna be good. And all I can say is God is good. Oh, I belong to a wonder-working God. Trading my dreams for victory. My God is working a wonder in me. Every day I wanna sing about it. Now I'm just gonna talk, I'm gonna live about it. I'm always in awe. I'm a wonder-working God. Yeah. Every day I wanna sing about it. Now I'm just gonna talk, I'm gonna live about it. I'm always in awe of my wonder-working God. I've seen so many miracles, I forgot what the word impossible means. Cause you know my God is working. Oh, I belong to a wonder-working God. Making a way like gonna be good. And all I can say is God is good. Oh, I belong to a wonder-working God. Trading my chains for victory. My God is working a wonder in me.
Current FM, what's going on? Wow, loud, very loud. That was painful. That was all in my head. That was all of that went to my ears. Yeesh. Good grief. You know, that's what this was happening. What happens when you don't you miss one thing off, and then you're like, wait a minute. Did I do that? Was that Urkel the guy? Did I do that? How's everybody doing out there? We're going to be talking about something that I think is very important to understand. What happens when you are misinterpreted or even misunderstood? That a lot of people make the mistake of being upset when they are misunderstood, when it's an opportunity to check yourself on how you communicate, or just making sure you are stating the best case, that you're communicating properly. This is something that's very hard for people to accept. Most people get upset when they are misunderstood. You don't have to be upset when you're misunderstood. The key is to say, hey, what could I have done better to be understood better? That's a challenge for a lot of people. A lot of people get misunderstood, and like I said, they get offended because they think that they're the greatest communicators in the world. When the truth of the matter is, you may not be as good of a communicator as you thought, or there's something that you could have just done better. There's something you could have just done. Now that was Crystal on that one. But I want to talk about this because, again, it's very easy to get upset because you're misunderstood, and I want to encourage people, don't be upset. Just figure out how to communicate your message better. Preachers a lot of time, and the reason why I say this is because so many people, when you preach the word of God, words like bigot gets thrown out. I mean, you automatically, as soon as you start preaching, if you say anything that's challenging or a little offensive, people will run to the extreme. Right. But the problem is too many preachers will assume that the other person is the problem and not think, could I have communicated that better?
Yes. And I'm going to talk about that. Hold that thought.
But it's true. Anyway. It's so easy to do, and so too many preachers think that just because God uses them and speaks through them, that they're these awesome communicators. And so when they give a word, they might do it in a way that shuts the receiver down instead of having them going, okay. Or you might end up, causing a person to think you're saying one thing and that's not your intention at all. And so if there's, you've got to make sure you've distanced yourself away from, personal situations that can skew how you communicate. You got to be away from assumptions. When you bring somebody a word, it's a very serious thing.
Okay. When you go back to the word bigot, and you said that like people like call people that, and that's how, whether it's Karen, there's so many things that people say that really isn't.
Yeah, because it's like anytime you preach, there's somebody out there saying,
right.
Yeah.
So a bigot, first of all, is someone who strongly and unfairly dislikes other people's ideas, refuses to accept people of another group. Basically, today you're a bigot if you just have your own beliefs. You could be totally accepting of other people, right? Completely. Like you could just be like, hey, I just have my own beliefs, but you're a bigot if you don't believe what they believe.
Yeah.
And that's where people drive me crazy. Like I've so many times people are called bigots just for having their own belief system.
But I think it still comes from the people not
and
listening.
The people calling people bigots are the actual bigots.
Right.
Because they don't accept, like they really hate that somebody else has their own belief system.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy. And I'm like, why? And then it's like pretty much it's the same way. Like, yes, this new Karen thing that people are called. I understand there are those groups of people that are idiots is pretty much, I know we're not supposed to call people idiots, but it's like they are out to just be insane, obnoxious, just really prejudiced in so many ways. Just there are those group of people that do that. But then it's like the same thing. Now it's like people are called Karens just for having their own opinions.
Well, I can tell you what gets you in the Karen category when something that doesn't have anything to do with you. And it's more about, I think it's more really about a self-righteous, like if you add being racist and not knowing and self-righteous together, the Karen is an undeniable thing.
Yeah, but I've heard people, white people call white people Karens just because like they don't want to wear a mask or something. You know what I mean? And it's like, what is that got? You know what I mean? That's not even how that got started.
That's not cool.
So
that's not cool.
So it's like, like people really need to understand the definition of something. Like it loses meaning. Like when people go around and say certain words, it really loses meaning. Like we talk about the word love all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I've talked about that a lot when people say like, I love my mom. I love Jesus. I love ice cream. I love this color. You know what I mean? So it's like love often loses its meaning.
But that's what I'm saying about being misunderstood. I'm talking about being misunderstood, but it's not always the reason why of the other person. Sometimes it's the way you put messages out. Like a lot of, for example, police officers are people who have misinterpreted a lot. Well, a lot of times police officers are misinterpreted because if everyone's watching the same movies, listens to the same music, you know how people feel about police officers. But you can't think everyone hates police officers and then approach a traffic stop like everyone hates police officers. At the same time, when you get pulled over, you cannot just assume that police officer hates you.
Not at all. Like there's so many police officers out there. Like the majority, and I will say this a million times, the majority of police officers want to do what's right. And they take this job, they don't get paid enough, and they put their lives at risk every day. Their families don't know if they're going to come home.
Here's the only problem I say with that is that they're still human.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that, humans just do crazy things. You got to hear me because this is important. humans being humans, you never know what to expect.
Exactly.
There's always, like, if Bill Cosby turned out the way he did, all bets are off on everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we don't know the human ability to keep secrets and hide stuff. And,
Right.
you know,
But the same way that the police officers are in power, per se, they're also there to protect. So there's so many times that people don't realize police officers are the first ones that walk into a domestic violence situation. They put their lives on the line to save someone. They show up the first ones to see a horrific accident and help people, you know, as they're laying there dying or need help. Like, you know, they help with kidnap situations. There's so many different things that police officers do other than just write tickets and act in power. You know what I mean? So,
right.
They're there day after day after day, putting their lives on the line, mentally getting, you know, challenged every single day, emotionally challenged. And so when people sometimes think of police officers, they think of this power trip that they have, but they don't realize that's not what police officers do. They do so much more than write tickets.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like you said, the stuff, some of this, they're actually seeing things that nobody should see.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so their stress level. Now, this is the thing, you know, well, this is where everyone has to realize there are such things as human limitations and a human breaking point where we're going to break. We're going to flip out because we take on more than most of us are not being,
I don't think she had both mics on.
Most of us are not approaching things from the perspective of God.
Right.
So though that breaking point can come out of nowhere, it can come out of, if you're not connected to God, your breaking point can take you off guard. You won't see it coming. You'll be like, where in the world did this come from?
Right.
Because you never saw it coming. So a lot of police officers need to be covered, and I think we the people are the ones that's supposed to be praying for them, making sure that they feel loved as well, so they are better servants.
Right.
You know, now, again, I was talking before about just these roles of service, you know, about being misunderstood. You know, and a lot of times in leadership, especially teachers, parental leadership, anything that has to do with guidance and the development of a human being, we've got to do a better job at actually communicating, right? And making sure that we're understood so that they get the right picture, so that they have the right thoughts. It's so easy to think that the other person needs, you know, why do they misunderstand me? I always find it funny that teachers and prophets and preachers, they always think the reason why a person didn't receive their word is because that person is in some state of being to not hear their own powerful word.
Right.
They never consider what they could have said better, what they could have done better.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, no, you can't do that, because that person might be like, yes, anything you say, I'll take it before the Lord. You know, if they're a good receiver, but if the person communicating is off,
right? Or like, this is a little bit off track, but if somebody lays hands on you to heal you and you're not healed, something's wrong with you, because they're powerful, and you know,
that ain't off topic at all.
So it's like, if you're not healed after they lay hands on you, something is definitely wrong with you. Like, you are off, you don't receive. And so yeah, it's very interesting. Here's what I think, man. You know, I think that we've got to get back to a place where, you know, everybody's examining themselves. You know, when I think about, sometimes when I give words, or if I can see something, I have insight on something, you know, one, it depends on how long I'm staying on a subject. It depends on what I'm saying, what the subject's about. There's a lot of variables. The one thing I will never do is not say anything out of fear, but it's so interesting how we put out word and so desperately want to be accepted, or we want it to be well received. I'm thinking about the fact that
the prophets were killed because of the fact that, they put out word and people didn't receive it. Jeremiah had to tell everyone in his community, that they were doing church wrong. Can you imagine how they felt about that? Can you imagine how that they felt like we're the holy ones with the level of pride? What is your face for like that?
What?
His face like she's just really just frustrated you.
Oh no, it's because she made that loud noise.
Okay, so let me guys listen. Crystal is absolutely 100% like super professional, and I'm not, and neither are my kids, and we drive her insane. I feel so bad for you.
The situation a while ago is there's a trash can right here in the studio beside Duke, and she had this big salad bowl, and she just like threw it in the trash can really hard instead of going into the kitchen and throwing the salad bowl in there in the kitchen where it should go. And I was like, no, it doesn't go in there. And she was like, oh yeah, and then put it back in there because I think that paper and stuff goes in the studio trash can. The food goes in the kitchen trash can. That's right. My thing.
Oh man. I used to see Crystal's got a little salt shakers and this and that. I don't like
Oh my goodness. He came over to my house one day and cooked steak. I walk in my kitchen and almost cried. Like, I was like, because I was taking a nap while he cooked steak. And I walked in there. He had all of my spices, like, out everywhere, like, stuff all over them. Like, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to clean up this mess because there was a mess everywhere. Like, I guess he enjoyed his steak. I don't even know. And then I poured out this pot of something. And then later he's like, you didn't pour out that pot of juice or something. I was like, yeah, I didn't know you were supposed to keep it. Like,
I was going to cook another steak in it.
He was like, oh, it's okay. Never mind. I was like,
I was going to cook another steak in it. Yeah. Oh, man, but I feel bad for you, man. No, but seriously, guys, I need you guys to understand something. As leadership, pastors, preachers, teachers, do not get upset when you put out a word and someone doesn't receive it because it may have been the way you put it out. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't realize the impact that your words can say on people. Even if your intentions are good, you can still turn people off. You can mess people up. You can cause people to go into fear, even if that's not what you intended. So you have to be very careful with what you say and how you say it. So I'm a warrior, so I'm always ready to, go in that spiritual war mode. And what happens is when I'm praying for somebody, if I get a word, I'm going to tell that person, hey, I got a word for you. You know what I mean? But sometimes that's not good if you haven't considered, hey, how to tell that word. You just say, oh, I'm going to tell them what the Lord showed me. I'm going to tell them what the Lord showed me. You know, man. Then you don't think, oh, well, did you realize this person is, sensitive, or this person is easy to stress? If you say this, there's a way to say it, and you also have to pray and ask God if God is telling you to say it.
Exactly.
Just because God gives you a word doesn't mean you're supposed to say it. That's the other part of it. So there might be another reason why.
Would understand that you don't have to say every single thing that comes to your head.
Was that for me? I think. Shots fired.
I didn't mean that.
I think I'm pretty sure what's happening right now.
I'm just saying, no, in general, like, we've been in church and we talked about that, how people just say things and that God told them to say it when they know daggone well God did not tell them to say it, because it's not even true. God is a God of truth. He's not going to tell you to say anything that's not true.
Yeah, like God telling us to. Did God telling me to then I'm gonna marry some chick in the church. You remember that? Oh, so bad.
Yeah. Like we were literally engaged and somebody contacted him saying that
I was supposed to
in
marry.
the middle of church somebody prophesied that she was supposed to marry him.
Oh, it's so bad.
And then he's like, what? This is like the third person that she was prophesied to, by the way.
Oh man, it's so bad. Anyway, bunch of spiritual weirdos. You know, that's what happens, man. Current up, we're gonna play you guys some music. This is Need to Breathe. Who am I? All right. So we're back. We're still on Savior Connect, and you know it's really cool to be able to do this and share these awesome moments with you. You know, when we look back, we're gonna think about all the amount of conversations that we've had. I think we might talk to each other more than most couples.
Oh yeah,
You know.
because of all the conversations we have on
Yeah, and you know when.
TV and radio.
Do you want to know what's funny about our friendship, our relationship, our covenant, everything that we have? It's very interesting that what used to annoy me was when I would talk and you would go, Duke, you go on and on and on and on and on about stuff. And I'd be like, because you won't cut me off. You wouldn't cut. What annoyed me, now I need men to most men understand what I'm saying, how crazy this is. I get annoyed because you wouldn't cut me off and just jump in. Then I noticed when guests would come, you would encourage them. You're like, hey, with him, you have to just jump in. But you yourself wouldn't do it. So I get so annoyed. I'm like, why won't you jump in? But now, I mean, that first year, you would do great when you started talking by yourself. If you started talking, you would do great. But as far as like us really having a conversation where you're like, no, but what about this? And like the whole banter and cutting up, you really nailed it. Like you really realized, okay, I'm just going to say what I need to say. And he's 9 times out of 10, he's going to talk the whole 4 hours. I didn't mean it like that. I was going to say I didn't mean it like that. But it's like, no, that can happen.
Right.
Yeah. And so you learn how to just jump in. And most men say, I can't even think. You don't give me a chance to think and this and that. It's like, but with you learn, okay, Duke can go. So I'm going to have to learn how to just jump in and say what he kind of, you know, and I appreciate that.
Thanks.
You know, the other thing that annoys me is that everyone's going to be like, yeah, Duke's something's wrong with him, is, you know, I'll be like, hey, you hungry? And she's like, you know, you're like, yeah, I'm hungry. And then you'll order something that costs like $1. and then when I start talking about the bill, you know, I'm like, why is the bill so big? It's like, Duke, that's your steak. That's your. Because everybody, I got to tell y'all something about Crystal.
Yeah, we'll go out to eat and it'll come to like $80 and like 70 of it will be yours.
Crystal can actually eat off the kids' menu.
And it's so funny. You get mad at me because I don't ever want to spend money. You're like, you're so cheap. Like, why don't you want to spend money? And I'm like,
oh, she's cheap, guys. She's cheap. Now, I can tell you when it comes to the ministry stuff, she's not cheap. You go in on the ministry stuff.
Yeah. When it comes to like buying stuff for that. But
yeah,
when it comes to like anything else, it's like, nah, I don't want to spend
It
money.
is hilarious.
I don't want to. No, we don't need that. Why do we need that?
She's not getting her hair done, and I'm like, what in the world? What kind of problems am I having? But I'm like, go. I will take you to go get your hair done. I will take you to get your nails done or whatever. She's like, no, we got stuff to do, and then I'm getting mad about it, which is weird. Anyway, but from what I understand, you've always been like that, though. You've always been the type to buy it for everybody else. I bet you're the type to buy your dog a Christmas present.
Of course.
You did that?
I always get him something. This year you got a new Mr. Fox.
Right. White people. White people and their dogs. I tell you what, white people love their animals. You know what I mean? Like they really, really love their animals. Like those, like the white people will put them in sweaters. If you dress your animal,
I'm trying to.
if you're a white person and you
me
dress your
to
animal,
put like God's little angel dog clothes, like stuff like that on the kiosk.
please call in at 757-631-7777.
We're gonna be having dog
Contest.
on the kiosk.
I want to know what is the craziest thing you've dressed your dog in.
Yeah, but we're gonna be having dog clothes on the kiosk pretty soon.
Yeah. Oh man. You know you're gonna get me in trouble with that. All my super holy people are gonna be like, dude, you're losing the vision.
Why? Dogs are from God. What the heck?
You know what I think? I think people got to be careful too about their opinions. Their opinions and the word of God. Just because you have an opinion doesn't mean it's the word of God.
God sent these animals. Like,
yeah, but they're not supposed to replace humans.
no, of course not. But okay, so like my parents, they can't have children anymore. They're they're not replacing children, but their little Shyla, she's a Chihuahua. She's like my little sister. That's their baby. You know what I mean? Like literally, like they take her everywhere. She thinks she's human, but they love her. Like a lot of, especially older people do. They end up, bonding with their animals that way. A lot of lonely people.
Oh, I get it. I totally get it. I get it 100%.
Your daughter is a cat person. I took her to my cousin's house the other night, and as she was going to leave with her 2 cats.
I think what happened to me is I got hurt. I think I got kind of jaded. My parents were not having it. My parents were not letting the dog in the house, and that was just the bottom line. And so I had to shut down my feelings, towards that, because, I would have loved to wake up and my dog is beside me, and, that whole the boy and his dog story. I would have loved that story.
Right, and I had that. So it was like.
Yeah, and so for me, it's because I already understand, even to have you in my life, there's going to be an animal a part of my life. You know what I mean?
It's not just me. It's Faith. Like Faith.
Well, she needs it.
I can't wait to get a husky. We're going to be fighting over this husky that we're going to get one day. And she loves cats. I love cats. So it's like we're always going to have animals.
But do you think about this? Do you think people do a good job at knowing what comes with it?
And my daughter loves animals. My daughter's
like you have to know what kind of problems come with each type of animal.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're not prepared, it will drive you insane. Like
some of them love to chew. Some of them love to bark. Some of them love to howl.
Right. We're gonna have to have when we get the husky, it's gonna be like
my dog Copper. I took him through training so many times. Obedience school. Went with him. Spent many hours. That dog. How do I say this? If there was I don't even want to say it because it's. Yeah, I don't even want to compare him to humans, but there was something wrong with him. Put it that way. No matter what, he had like this bad anxiety that if anyone walked in my house, he would howl, and he was a beagle. So he would howl and howl and howl and scream. You've heard it. You heard him. And it was like, no matter what we did, we could not get him to stop doing that. And we tried to crate train him. Like, it was like, no matter what we did with this dog. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, like, he was meant for us, because most people couldn't have handled him. Like, my neighbors would call me and say, Copper's outside howling at something. And I'm like, I am so sorry. And I would have to go get him in. Good thing we lived in Deep Creek where there was a lot of beagles. But it was like, he was like, I don't know. Like, there's no possible way I think a lot of people could have handled this dog. And that's what you got to know when you get an animal. It's like, Some of them are just going to be, and it's a lifetime commitment. And his sister Belle was completely opposite. She was calm, she was chill. You know, he got on her nerves so bad, but he was like spastic and never would calm down, and just like something was wrong with this. I would call him a child, but it was something wrong with him, and he just would not stop. Like, it was bouncing off the walls constantly. But he was a sweet baby. Like, I loved him to death, but he was funny as I don't know. But yeah, most people couldn't handle that.
You know, definitely, I think you should definitely study up before
Right,
you
yeah.
get a dog, to study up on what you're gonna do.
Yeah, because beagles can be very hyper.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Some of them can be very chill, and some of them can be very hyper.
I just knew that they were the hunting dogs.
She was the tan. He was like a blue tick or whatever. They were different types, and she was very chill. Belle was. He was very.
My poor father, man. He got a boxer and had no idea that they're like known for being hyper dogs. You know what I mean? Like, these are dogs that, you know, were meant to go hunt rabbits and stuff like that. And so
I think that was his problem. I think he was he was meant to be like, he was raised, his father was a hunter. So he wanted to hunt and he wanted to run. And it was like, even though we had a big backyard, and I tried to walk him around the neighborhood every day, it wasn't enough for him.
No,
he did not get his energy out.
Yeah, he needs a field to just sprint. And, you know, that's one thing I think about with the husky. I don't want to do that, you know, and trap them in a house, because they're beautiful dogs. They make you look good. They make you look like a well put together family. But if you don't do right by them, they will tear up your house.
Land with the husky. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I had this one dog one time. His name was Magnum, and he was a German Shepherd. And then we had Starbuck, who was, I don't even remember what he was. It was like a mix of something. Anyway, thank you. We came home one time, and this dog, this German Shepherd, he was still a puppy, but he was huge.
My daughter is so weird, dude.
We came home. They had taken the cushions off the couch and ate the cushions and ate the entire interior of the couch and the love seat. So we had no furniture when we came home.
And you just gotta laugh it off. You know what I mean? So being with you, you know, this long, with, you know, seeing how your animals are. I mean, I know that, like I said, we just said that things would be different, but I know that I've lightened up towards the idea. The only thing that gets me, though, is the fact that they know what they're doing. You know, when they do something wrong, they know what they're doing. I can't stand the fact that they will like run into that cuteness or whatever, and then try to just play on your heart. And I'm like, okay, now you are like a person. You're just as evil as a human being. And
oh yeah, when I came home the other day, my daughter had brought her dog to my house. It's a Chihuahua, and she's 12, and she's tiny. She's like 4 pounds, and she, I guess, used the bathroom in the house. And I came home, and I knew she had done it, but I was like, who did it? Who did that? And Poppy, my dog, looked right at Chloe and was like, she did it. And then Chloe like looked and then looked down like this. That's like so funny. Like, when I was like, Chloe, you did it. And then she just like looked away. I was like,
oh man. Yeah. But anyway, we were talking about being misunderstood. And I think that this is where we've got to be very, very much aware. And I'm really talking to preachers about being careful how you deliver a word. Do you know that one time that when my kids went through something terrible, and a preacher came up to me and said, you know, this wouldn't have happened if you were there. Like, and it's like, well, yeah, we know this wouldn't have happened if I was there, but guess what else? The timing is off. Guess what else? You don't need to, you know, like there's a better way for you to handle that. You know, preachers sometimes think that they're always right. just because, again, God gives them a word. And you can immediately become wrong just based off how you give the word. If you don't, because the enemy's always waiting for, the enemy's always waiting to discredit you. He's always ready to discredit somebody. The enemy is always prepared to try to discredit us or make us look bad or confuse us or something like that. And that's why we have to be very vigilant about speaking the word of God and even checking, like I said before, God, is this a word that I'm supposed to say? Is this a word, something I'm supposed to pray about? You don't just get a word from God and then speak it.
Right.
And this is where a lot of people mess up. And I would encourage everybody, even when you're praying for people, whatever, please make sure that you're being extremely careful, because this is people's lives on the line here. And if you want someone, if God has given you an important word for somebody and you want them to keep receiving from you, you got to take that seriously.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
As a matter of fact, one of the biggest relationships between parents and kids. Once a kid decides that I can't tell my dad or mom this because they don't understand me, good grief, that becomes like this long, drawn out drama. There is a gap in the relationship at that time, because it's like, my dad's going to overreact, my mom's going to overreact, and now the kid's trapped in their own head and can't. It's not good.
I know it
Is it? Now the kid, can you. So this dynamic is a little different than preachers and someone. As parents, you have this relationship with your child, but you have to be very careful, because your kid can redefine it in lightning speed.
Right.
And we've got to be, you got to be extremely careful with that, because it is so easy to throw that away. You know what I mean? To throw that away, because you can mean well. You know what I mean? You can mean well, but the truth of the morning is,
Truth of the morning.
Truth of the matter.
Oh, that's the truth of the morning too, right?
Yeah, the truth of the matter is, you can mean well all day, but once you lose your kid's trust, if they can't trust you to not overreact, and that includes wrecking the car, stealing the car, or whatever, Now I'm saying this is easier said than done, so like, please don't think I'm like a pro at it or something.
Right. Well, that is true. Like, a lot of times, like, we talk about that, like, what you intend to do and what you actually did matters. It really does. Now, your heart, it does matter. It depends on the situation, I think, sometimes, but a lot of times you can say, well, I didn't mean to do that. But a lot of times when people say that too, if you really check your heart and what you really meant to do, what actually came out and took place might be what you really meant to do. You just, you know what I mean? You're trying to fool yourself.
Yeah. And don't forget, and I tell people all the time, never forget how hard people work to be believed.
Right. And sometimes people try to fool themselves. And I mean, I've even done that. Everybody, I think, has. Like,
what? Not you, girl.
Stop it.
Not you, girl.
I didn't mean to hit you in the head.
Let me see something. We had a chance to do an interview with Abby Robinson.
Yeah. Well,
and,
last Friday.
Yeah, and I want to make sure. Let me see if this is it. Hold on. I want to make sure. This is John.
Eddie Carswell.
Did we already play his?
No,
Eddie Carswell?
no, that's supposed to be played now.
Okay, so that's at 8:30.
Oh, it is. Well, why are you so late? Yes. When are we doing John Cooper?
All right, so we're gonna play these interviews. We're gonna be right back in a second. See you guys soon.